I never thought I'd be the kind of girl who ends up homeless, standing outside in the cold with nothing but a couple of trash bags and a backpack. But here I am. And the worst part? The man who threw me out wasn't a stranger. He was the man I had to call stepdad for the last 6 years. My name's Emily Parker. I'm 19 years old, and for most of my teenage life, I lived under Carl Benson's roof. He married my mom when I was 13. I remember the day they got married. Mom was glowing, happy like I hadn't seen in years. I thought maybe this would be a new beginning for both of us. Carl seemed decent enough in the beginning. He was polite, had a steady job, and treated Mom with kindness. At least on the surface. But after the wedding cake was eaten and the guests went home, I started to notice things. He never called me by my name. He'd just say, "Hey," or "Girl." When I got good grades, he barely nodded. When I made a mistake, he exploded. So I stayed quiet. My mom loved him, and after everything she'd been through, I didn't want to ruin her happiness. Then she got sick. It was quick, aggressive. She was diagnosed with cancer and gone in less than a year. After that, Carl changed. Completely. It was like the tiny thread that held us together snapped. I went from being a quiet presence in his house to a nuisance, a problem, a thorn in his side. If I left a dish in the sink, he'd shout. If I got home 10 minutes late, he'd lock the door. I was walking on eggshells 24/7. Still, I had no money, no family to run to, and no one else to depend on. I worked part-time at a local diner downtown, saving what little I could. My dream was to save enough to get my own place, maybe go to community college. But the paychecks were small and the bills never stopped coming. So I stayed. I stayed because I had no choice. And then came that night. It was a Friday. The diner was packed. A group of drunk college kids wouldn't leave, and I had to stay an extra hour to clean up. I texted Carl to let him know, but I knew he probably wouldn't even read it. I didn't have high expectations. By the time I made it back, it was almost 10:30. My feet were sore, my uniform smelled like grease, and all I could think about was crawling into bed. But as soon as I opened the door, I saw him, Carl, standing in the hallway with his arms crossed. He didn't say anything at first. He just stared at me like I was something disgusting he'd stepped in. "You think this is a hotel?" he finally barked. I sighed. "Carl, I had to stay late. The manager." He cut me off. "I don't care. You come and go as you please. You treat this place like it's yours." I dropped my bag by the wall. "I told you I had work. You want me to quit and sit around all day instead?" His face turned red. "Don't talk back to me, girl. I'm done with this. Pack your things. You're out." I froze. "What? Are you serious?" "You heard me. Get out. I want you gone tonight. I've had enough." I just stared at him. For a second I thought he might be bluffing. Maybe he just needed to cool off, go to bed angry like he always did, and pretend nothing happened in the morning. But he didn't move. Didn't blink. "Carl, I don't have anywhere to go," I said, my voice cracking. "It's late. Where am I supposed to sleep?" He leaned in, his voice low and sharp like a knife. "Not my problem. You're not my daughter. You never were. And you're not welcome here. So unless you want me to call the cops, I suggest you get moving." I can't explain the feeling that hit me then. It wasn't just fear. It was like something inside me snapped. Like a light bulb shattered inside my chest. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to my room, packed what I could into 2 trash bags, grabbed my backpack, and walked out the front door. The wind hit me like a punch. It was cold. January cold. I didn't even have gloves. I dragged my stuff down the sidewalk and sat at the bus stop, but of course the buses had stopped running by then. I checked my phone, 6% battery. I had $53 in my account. No credit card. No place to go. No one to call. I sat there for a long time, watching my breath fog up in front of me, trying not to cry because I knew if I started I wouldn't be able to stop. Every car that drove past, I wondered if they could tell. If they looked at me and knew I was homeless now. Just another girl with nowhere to sleep. Thought about my mom. What would she say if she could see this? What would she do if she knew Carl, the man she trusted, had thrown her daughter into the street like garbage? That night, I slept behind the 7-Eleven down the block. I curled up behind the dumpster, using my backpack as a pillow, hugging my trash bags like they were stuffed animals. I didn't sleep much. But as I lay there staring up at the sky, I made myself a promise. This would not be the end of my story. He may have kicked me out, but I wasn't going to let him break me. Not forever. I just didn't know then, how much everything was about to change. The first few days after Carl kicked me out were the hardest. I wandered from corner to corner trying to keep warm, pretending like I had somewhere to be. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until I figured something out. But when you're 19, broke and completely alone, figuring something out feels impossible. I rotated between sleeping behind the 7-Eleven and sitting in a 24-hour laundromat just to stay warm. I'd buy a tiny bag of chips just to justify sitting in the corner for hours. My phone died on the second day and I didn't have a charger. I barely ate. I rationed my $50 like it was my last lifeline, which honestly it was. On the sixth day I found a women's shelter downtown. The place was crowded, the food was barely warm and I couldn't get a bed every night, but it was something. I met women of all ages there, some with stories worse than mine. Somehow their brokenness made me feel less alone. Still, every night I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, asking God if this was really it for me. If this was what my life had come to. One night everything changed. It was raining. I remember because my hoodie was soaked through and I couldn't stop shivering. I was sitting on a bench outside a closed cafe, hugging myself for warmth. My trash bags were underneath the bench and I had my backpack sitting in my lap like it was made of gold. I was fighting back tears, telling myself to hold it together for just one more hour when this woman walked by. She wore a long tan coat, black heels and had a silver umbrella. She looked like she belonged in a magazine, not downtown at midnight. She slowed down when she saw me and I quickly wiped my face, pretending like I wasn't falling apart. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" she asked. I was caught off guard. No one had asked me that in days. I looked up at her, unsure if I should lie or be honest. But something in her voice felt safe. I don't have anywhere to go," I admitted. She sat beside me, which surprised me even more. Most people wouldn't sit near a girl with trash bags and dirty sneakers. But she did. She introduced herself as Mrs. Thompson, and said she ran a non-profit organization for young women in crisis. I thought it was a scam at first because who just shows up like that? But she gave me her card and told me if I was ready to get off the streets she could help. I showed up the next morning. Her office was warm, clean and smelled like fresh coffee. I could have cried just from the heat alone. She didn't judge me. She didn't ask 1,000 questions. She gave me a clean set of clothes, food and a room in a group home with 4 other girls like me. For the first time in weeks I slept in a real bed. With a blanket. A pillow. I cried myself to sleep that night, not from sadness but from relief. Over the next few weeks, Mrs. Thompson helped me enroll in a job training program. I got new clothes, a bus pass and even a phone charger. I learned how to write a proper resume, how to interview, how to believe in myself again. And within a month I landed a receptionist job at a law office downtown. I had my own schedule, a nameplate on my desk and a tiny apartment that came with a lease in my name. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I felt like I was slowly rebuilding the pieces of my life. Like I could breathe again. And just when I thought things were finally falling into place, I was handed a stack of files to process at work. That's when I saw his name, Carl Benson. And next to it, a notice of foreclosure. I couldn't believe my eyes. The man who threw me out into the streets like trash was about to lose everything. But that wasn't even the real shock. The real twist? That came when I saw the ownership papers attached to the file. And my name was on them. I stared at the file for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking. My name was listed as the sole owner of the house Carl had kicked me out of. I thought it had to be a mistake. Some kind of clerical error. But it wasn't. The deed was real. The signature was my mom's. Dated 6 months before she passed away. She'd left the house to me. Not Carl. Me. I couldn't breathe. All this time while he was yelling at me, treating me like some stray he let sleep under his roof, he was living in my house. Kicking me out of something that legally belonged to me. No. He was about to lose it all because he'd taken out loans, let the property taxes pile up and used the house like it was his personal ATM. I took the file straight to Mrs. Thompson. She read it over and nodded like she already knew something like this would happen. "It's time to take your life back," she said. That same afternoon she connected me with a lawyer. A good one. We filed a claim with the court. It took weeks, paperwork, hearings, meetings, but finally the court ruled in my favor. Carl had no legal claim to the house. Not even a partial one. He had 30 days to vacate the property or face forced eviction. I didn't go to watch. I thought about it but I couldn't. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because I didn't want him to have the satisfaction of seeing me, of thinking he still had power over me. I chose peace. But the next day I got a voicemail. His voice sounded like I'd never heard it before. Small, desperate. Emily, I made a mistake. I was angry. I shouldn't have said those things. Please, let's talk. I deleted the message. I didn't need closure from him. I didn't need his apology. I had something better now. Proof that I was never the worthless girl he made me feel like. I had a home. I had a job. I had a future. And most of all, I had the truth on my side. Some people come into your life to break you, but sometimes that break is the very thing that sets you free. So yeah, he warned me never to come back. And guess what? I didn't. Not as the broken girl he kicked out anyway. I came back on my own terms. As the owner. As the one who survived. If my story inspired you or made you feel something, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's more to come, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.